All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about something that, believe it or not, forms the bedrock of our entire society. I mean, everything. From the house you live in to the roads you drive on, it all comes down to land records. Now, I know, it might sound a little technical, but how we track and manage land is a huge deal, and it's going through this massive and frankly often messy digital revolution.
So let's start with a simple question. Who really owns the ground beneath your feet? I mean, you probably have a deed, a title, maybe it's tucked away in a safe somewhere, but how can you be absolutely sure that piece of paper is rock solid, that it's accurate, secure, and that everyone recognizes it? What's the system that's actually backing it all up?
Well, here's the thing. For millions of people, and even for entire countries, the answer is not great. The systems that are supposed to give us that certainty are often ancient, clunky, and just riddled with errors. This creates this constant low-level anxiety and insecurity, and it puts the brakes on everything from a family buying a home to a country trying to build new infrastructure.
So first, let's really get a handle on the problem. We're talking about a system that's in chaos. The old way of doing things, just imagine, stacks of paper files in a dusty basement, different government offices that don't talk to each other, slow, manual processes. It just can't keep up with the modern world. It's this chaos that's forcing the need for a complete overhaul.
And that brings us to the proposed solution, a digital foundation called the Land Information System, or LIS for short. The whole point of an LIS is to bring some order, some clarity, and some much-needed efficiency to this incredibly complex world of land administration.
At its most basic level, an LIS is pretty much what it sounds like. It's a comprehensive digital system for managing all the data connected to a piece of land. But, and this is the important part, it's not just a digital filing cabinet. The real goal is to make that information actually useful and accessible to the people who need it.
And you know what's really fascinating is that this isn't some brand new idea. Experts were talking about this all the way back in 1982. They saw it not just as a database, but as a critical tool for making decisions. And look at those keywords: legal, administrative, economic, planning. That tells you just how deeply this one system touches pretty much every part of a society.
So, what's an LIS trying to achieve? Well, it boils down to a few key things. First and foremost, it's about giving you, the citizen, that rock-solid confidence that your property is legally yours, no question. It's also about making the whole process of registering that property simple and affordable, not a bureaucratic nightmare. And then, on a bigger scale, a good LIS helps create a transparent land market and gives city planners the data they need to build smarter, better communities for all of us.
Okay, so if the idea is so great and the goals are so clear, why doesn't every single country have a perfect, shiny LIS up and running? Well, as you might guess, saying you're going to build one and actually doing it are two very different things. It is an immense challenge.
The first and, honestly, the biggest roadblock is the data itself. A lot of the existing land records are, well, they're a mess. We're talking about maps with overlapping property lines, records that are still handwritten in ledgers from 100 years ago, or boundaries that were marked by, say, a river that has literally moved over the decades. And you know the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. You can build the most sophisticated computer system in the world, but if you feed it bad data, it's completely useless.
Next up, you just can't build something this huge without a solid blueprint. So many of these projects stumble because there's no clear, long-term national plan. Different regions or departments end up building their own little incompatible systems, and before you know it, you've just created a digital version of the same old mess you were trying to fix.
And then, of course, you run into the classic problem of government bureaucracy. You've got the survey department, the land reform office, the National Archives, and often they don't coordinate or even communicate very well. Without everyone pulling in the same direction, a project this complex can just grind to a halt.
And finally, you have the human element. People sometimes look at new technology and expect it to be a magic wand that solves everything overnight. Managers, politicians, and even the public can have totally unrealistic expectations about what an LIS can do and how fast it can be done, really underestimating just how complex this job is.
So, with all these massive challenges, you have to ask why even bother? Well, because when it works, a land information system serves pretty much everyone. Its impact is incredibly wide-reaching.
Just think about all the people who rely on this. For an ordinary citizen, a home buyer or owner, it's about the fundamental security of knowing their most valuable asset is safe. For a bank, it's about having reliable data so they can confidently approve a mortgage. For your local town or city, it's the key to fair property taxes and smart planning for future growth. And for the national government, it's the essential data they need to guide huge infrastructure projects. It is truly a cornerstone of a modern economy.
And this isn't just a local issue or something only 1 or 2 countries are dealing with. No, modernizing land records is a challenge that countries all across the globe have been wrestling with for decades. It's a huge, ongoing global conversation.
I mean, look at this timeline. This has been on the international agenda for a long time. Way back in 1992, at the Earth Summit in Rio, they were already linking land management to sustainable development. Then you see summits in Istanbul, New Delhi, Bathurst, all hammering home the same points about secure ownership and the need to invest in this infrastructure. The call to action has been loud and clear for decades.
So the crucial point, the big takeaway from all these international meetings is this: there is a global consensus. A modern, effective system for managing land is no longer seen as some niche technical issue. It's now understood to be absolutely essential for any country that wants to achieve real economic and social progress.
Now, when a country finally decides to build an LIS, one of the first huge decisions they have to make is how to structure it. Do they go with a centralized system where one single national authority calls all the shots, or do they choose a decentralized model giving more power and control to regional or local offices? For a long time, the top-down, centralized model was the default. But today, modern technology, the internet, better databases, is making decentralized systems a much more realistic and sometimes better option.
And that really brings us to the final question we should all be thinking about. When you see how this system affects everything from an individual's property rights to a nation's economic health, and even our ability to plan for a sustainable future, you really have to ask yourself, in our rapidly changing world, is getting this right just a luxury, a nice thing to have? Or is it one of the most fundamental necessities for any functioning modern society?